Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the new character that has just been released in Genshin 3.4, Alhaitham. He is the new Dendro character to be released in Genshin Impact that specializes in doing continuous Dendro damage on field from his elemental skill and his elemental burst. He is a 5-star Dendro sword user. In this video, I'll be talking about his skill set and seeing how good it is. I'll also be talking about his builds, his weapons that you can use with him, and also some teams that you can put him in to make him powerful. And towards the end, I'll have a showcase of using Alhaitham in the Abyss to see how good I can make him out to be. But before we get into the video, if you enjoy my content and you want to support me, please consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe for more content in the future. Also check me out on Twitch, I'll be streaming over there playing Alhaitham, the link will be in the description below. And now let's get right into the video. First, let's go over Alhaitham's skills. The first one is the generic normal charge, plunging attack, etc. Nothing special, but we will talk about them when we get into some of his other skills. Now going into his elemental skill. Basically, it's kind of like Genshin's elemental skill where it has two modes. The first mode is whenever you tap it, it goes towards the nearest enemy, upon impact dealing Dendro damage. Whenever you hold the elemental skill, it enters an aiming mode to adjust the direction that you can make Alhaitham go, if you want to be more accurate on which enemy you want to hit. But the one thing that makes him unique is having this mechanic called the Chisel Light Mirror. These mirrors can spawn on the left shoulder of Alhaitham. You can get up to 3, but whenever you use his elemental skill, he will generate up to 2 minus the number that you already have. For example, if you have 0 and you use the elemental skill, you can generate up to 2, but if you have 1 and you use his elemental skill, it will generate only 1. While you're in possession of these Chisel Light Mirrors, it has the following properties. 1. Whenever he possesses a mirror, Alhaitham's normal, charge, and plunging attacks will be converted to Dendro damage, similar to like a Ching, but this one cannot be overridden. Number 2 is that whenever he's doing a normal, charge, or plunging attack, the mirrors will unleash a projection attack that deals AoE Dendro damage, based on the mirrors that Alhaitham has. And the mirrors will disappear one after another over time, or they will all disappear when Alhaitham leaves the field. A projection attack can be triggered once every 1.6 seconds, and a mirror is removed once every 4 seconds. And the cooldown of the elemental skill is a total of 18 seconds. Moving on to his elemental burst, he creates a field in front of him that deals multiple instances of AoE Dendro damage, also similar to like a Ching, but this is more like in front of him instead of like around him. But just like his elemental skill, this one also has an effect with the Chisel Light Mirrors where the number of mirrors you have can also increase the amount of times the burst can hit opponents. For example, if you have 0 mirrors, then the number of times that the burst can hit opponents is up to 4. But if you have up to 3, then the number of times that the burst can hit opponents is up to 10, which is a pretty good amount. The cooldown of the elemental burst is the same as the elemental skill, and the energy cost of the burst is at 70. When looking at both the skill and the burst again, you can see that their scalings are kind of the same, where they both scale off attack and elemental mastery. But when looking at the elemental skill, it scales more off elemental mastery compared to the elemental burst, where it scales more off attack. I know this can be confusing for some people on the stats that you want to be building on Alhaitham, but it's pretty easy to say that elemental mastery is the main stat you want to be focusing on when building stats for him, because when looking into one of his passives called Mysteries Laid Bare, each point of his elemental mastery will increase the damage dealt by the projection attacks and his elemental burst by 0.1%, and the damage of both abilities can be increased by a maximum of 100%. So basically, the max value you can use this passive is if you have 1000 elemental mastery, which is going to be pretty hard for a lot of people. So don't really focus on trying to min-max this passive because it's going to be pretty hard from the get-go, unless you're using a lot of characters that give elemental mastery. His second one, whenever Alhaitham does a charge and plunging attack that hits opponents, he will generate 1 Chisel Light Mirror, and this effect can be triggered once every 12 seconds, making it easy to get up to 3 Chisel Light Mirrors. And his last one is whenever Alhaitham crafts a weapon and such material, he has a 10% chance to receive double. And quickly moving on to the Constellations, just in case if anyone watching this video is interested in pulling Constellations for him. His C1, whenever a projection attack hits an opponent, his elemental skill cooldown is decreased by 1.2 seconds, and this effect can be triggered once every second, which is pretty good if you want to be more consistent with his elemental skill, but is not really necessary. Moving on to C2, when Alhaitham generates a mirror, his elemental mastery will be increased by 50 for 8 seconds, maximum of 4 stacks. So basically he can get up to an additional 200 elemental mastery for himself, which is pretty good if you want to min-max his passive that scales off elemental mastery. C3 is just a level boost for his skill. C4, whenever using his elemental burst, the following effects will become active based on the number of Chisel Light mirrors consumed and created this time around. Each mirror consumed will increase the elemental mastery of all nearby party members by 30 for 15 seconds, and 2, each mirror generated will grant Alhaitham a 10% dendro damage bonus for 15 seconds. So basically you can get up to around 90 elemental mastery for all your other party members, and also 30% dendro damage bonus for Alhaitham, which is a pretty nice constellation, but not really anything that surprising. Moving to C5 is a level boost for his elemental burst, and when taking a look at his C6, Alhaitham gains the following effects. 2 seconds after using his elemental burst, he will generate 3 Chisel Light mirrors regardless of the number of mirrors consumed. If Alhaitham generates Chisel Light mirrors when their numbers have already been maxed out, so basically if he generates another mirror even though he already has 3, his crit rate and crit damage will be increased by 10% and 70% respectively for 6 seconds. If this effect is triggered again during its initial duration, the duration remaining will be increased by 6 seconds as well. Now, right off the bat, this sounds pretty nice, but honestly, as a C6, it's not that surprising at all. It's nice, but as a C6, it kind of feels sort of underwhelming. Yes, it is a crit increase for his skills. It's just like Nilou C6, where it's just a stat increase, then like an ability change or something. It's a nice C6, but nothing really that surprising. When looking at his overall kit, it looks pretty good, but nothing that strong or game breaking. It's kind of like a Ching's in a sense where it does consistent damage, and also his elemental skill allows him to be an on-field dendro carry. Unlike Nahida, who can be kind of fragile in that role because she doesn't have that much health, where Alhaitham can be a solid role in that manner. When moving on to his artifact builds, he only really has 2. One, if you're planning to use him as a solo dendro in a team, then you definitely want to go for Deep Wood of Memories, because 1 is really good for his skill set because of the passive. But if you're not using him as a solo dendro and you have a secondary like Nahida or Dendro Traveler, then you definitely want to go for Gilded of Dreams, because 1, it gives you attack percentage and also elemental mastery as well, which he does scale off both stats, which is pretty nice. You can run 2-piece as like Dendro bonus or double elemental mastery, but you definitely want to go for one of the 4-piece sets. If you don't have any good artifacts for any of the sets, then going 2-piece is a fine option. When moving on to weapon choices, it's kind of simple. The new 5-star sword is his best in slot. Any of the other 5-star crit stat swords are also pretty good. Honestly, I prefer J Cutter because it gives you a lot of crit rate, but also Miss Splitter is also kind of good, and Haran is kind of the generalist weapon between all of them. Freedom Sword is also a good choice if you want to increase his elemental mastery, and also the passive is good for your party members. When talking about 4-star swords, only a few come to mind because not a lot of them are as good as you might think. For example, the best free-to-play option for 4-star is going to be the event weapon that we literally just got last patch. It gives you elemental mastery, and also the passive is nice for single target damage when applying to an enemy. Typhos is also a nice choice for EM and also ER from the passive. Sapwood could be pretty nice for the ER, and the passive is nice for giving you some EM. But Iron Sting seems to be his best craftable free-to-play weapon. Festering Desire can also be pretty nice if you do need the ER, and the passive is also good for his elemental skill. Alley Flash is kinda but I guess you can use it. Blackcliff and Blacksword are not going to be good even though they are crit stat weapons, but it all comes down to the passives not being really useful in Alhaitham's kit. Blackcliff's passive doesn't really feel consistent to use for him. And for Blacksword, even though his passive can increase his normal and charged attacks, but it doesn't increase the projection attacks that the mirrors create, so it doesn't really seem that solid of an option to recommend. However, the best free-to-play sword that is situational but can be best is the Harbinger of Dawn, mainly because one, it gives you a main set of crit damage, and also the passive is really nice in giving you a lot of crit rate for more consistency. The only thing about it is that you have to maintain Alhaitham's health over 90%, but there are ways that you can easily maintain his health by either one, giving him a strong shield, or giving him a healer that can consistently heal him to maintain his health. But I can understand why people wouldn't want to put this sword on him because of the passive. Even though it's a 3-star sword, it's totally fine to go for any of the 4-star options that you might have. Now when moving on to teams, I'm only going to be talking about the ones that can make Alhaitham do a lot of damage, but he does have a lot of options because he is Dendro, and Dendro has like a bunch of teams available. So the one team that you can use him in is obviously Quicken, because it makes him do a spread, which is kind of like Aggravate for Electro, but it makes him do a lot of damage instead. The next kind of team is going to be Hyper Bloom, because Hyper Bloom is the best reaction in terms of Bloom. In terms of Hyper Bloom teams, it's going to be the reaction that's going to do a majority of the damage. So the kind of characters that you can pair him with in this kind of team can be a second Dendro character if you want more Dendro, like Nahida or Dendro Traveler. An Electro character that can deal AoE Electro that can easily proc the blooms on field to create Hyper Bloom, like Kuki Shinobu, Radiant Shogun. And for a Hydro character that can apply consistent Hydro, like Yelan, Xingqiu, Kokomi. We're talking about Quicken teams. Obviously, a secondary Dendro can be good still, even though it can mess up some spread damage that Alhaitham can do, but it's good in terms of like energy, because since Alhaitham is at 70, considering on how many particles Alhaitham can generate, having a second Dendro character can be good in funneling energy for Alhaitham to use his elemental burst. You can have 1 or 2 Electro characters to consistently apply Electro to the enemy to apply Quicken. Good options for this can be Kuki Shinobu, Radiant Shogun. Beidou can be good in terms of using his elemental skill and doing normal attacks after to utilize the projection attacks from the mirrors. Or maybe even Lisa, even though I don't think she's the best option, but she also can be an option. And the 4th option can be a flex, like maybe Zhongli for a strong shield, or maybe even better for more attack. You can also consider an Nemo character to give elemental mastery for Alhaitham, like Kazuha or Sucrose. And that is all I have to say about Alhaitham. Next, I'm going to do the showcase where I take him to the Abyss to see how strong I can make him out to be. And the build that I will be using on Alhaitham in this video is going to be on the Gilded set. These are my artifacts. And the weapon that I'll be using on him is the new 5-star sword. These are his overall stats. So then please enjoy this showcase.
Process of elimination. Rise! This is order.
Committed to memory.
Here you are.
I see everything.
Solidify.
Sharing my knowledge.
Quicker. Stabilize.
Finally, some target practice.
I will have order.
Eyes on me!
Roll.
Stretch your wings and raise a storm!
Stabilize.
Stay freezer. Make yourselves at home.
Rise.
elimination.
This is order.
Grow. Make yourselves at home.
Here you are.
And that is the showcase for Alhaitham. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Now for my final thoughts about Alhaitham. Honestly, I didn't expect him to be the best or the greatest Dendro DPS that could be released. I think he is a nice option in terms of being an on-field Dendro character. But obviously he's not the strongest in terms of comparing him to other DPS characters that also exist. In the end, he is a solid option just because 1, he's an on-fielder, and 2, he's a Dendro character that can utilize all the other teams that Dendro has. The one thing I don't like about him is that it can be a little hard to get used to his cooldowns for his elemental skill and elemental burst, but the attacks from the Chisel Light Mirrors kinda makes up for that. But that is all I have to say about Alhaitham. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, subscribe for more content in the future, check me out on Twitch, the link will be in the description below. That's it for today, and hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.